And there are some things that I wish I sought his permission to say on this network. Many times when he was fighting the NPP government, when he was fighting corruption, there were times people called or sent people to meet Sammy to make offers, but he always rejected. That is why for 8 years, Sammy remained a critical voice against the NPP. He wasn't afraid for his life, and he never would do anything that revolves around bribery or corruption or what have you. So
Yamfa na sie sonko emu bibia hwemege TV emu bibia kwapa nina eni se yewura Sammy Gyamfi se won beka ya video bi circulate nina agrada Patricia Odro a oji sika afri yewura Sammy Gyamfi CEO of Ghana Good Board na iwie kire na chisa spark a lot of controversies Ghana a social media platform across the globe bia ofa en da ho no eno na nso ema yewura Sammy Gyamfi eba abontin ebe render unqualified apology ni namunu Ghana for so monti ase de also ko na okoji sika no edi free nipa na odemano no which is Nana Agrada ni nchen na we na chief of staff Monday oye twam ye oto ne nsa frɛ no ena obisa no sensem bi de ko ba ya ni na esiye endro ya ho na government spokesperson Osan can the communications team ne ho yewura Felix Ofusukwachi eba abontin ebe clear say no say de omodi ne mfonso achi no na mmom omabo no kokko na mankoye bio there is nothing again to be to be taken off. The case has been closed and the docket has been shutted down into bian kan wasem bio abusafo we nsem a free presidency yewura John Dramani Mahama and chief of staff yewura Julius Debra omonchen na we na Ghana fo binum ayo mu anobo ena mo ka say chale the way dey say dey say Mahama wa here dey wom even Victoria Hama kra na omrebe okoka be bibia yewura John Mahama eyi na difi na aban mu no ono kra pa achew Edem Sammy Gyamfi. It tells you say na atene crucial adeno it wasn't easy. Enje busia for sisi amenu kase Sammy Gyamfi no so nti sa brobe na we na Edem Abgana aba abontin a ono nso edi ensem bi abetudwa afa ho mempese mekase bebe yenko na yinti Edem Abgana on Metro TV bra moro ni show so Good Morning Ghana yakoba yebeto aso.
The acting CEO of Gold Board, Sammy Gyamfi, following his meeting with officials of the controversial dollar gift to socialite Patricia Asidu-Siama, aka Nana Agrada, last Saturday. Now, the spokesperson for the president, Felix Kwachofosu, confirmed yesterday that Mr. Gyamfi's public apology had been accepted and he had been cautioned to be more circumspect in his actions. The president acknowledged Mr. Gyamfi's remorse and has advised him to exercise greater discretion in the future. Kwachofosu stated, with the matter now resolved, the presidency considers the case closed. Okay. Now, following the meeting at the presidency, Mr. Gyamfi left the premises in a sober mood, signaling the seriousness of the engagement. The viral video which showed Mr. Gyamfi's handing Nana Agrada a substantial amount of dollars has sparked widespread debate, with some questioning the source of the funds and the appropriateness of the gesture. Mr. Gyamfi had earlier explained that the money was intended for personal use and that Nana Agrada had insisted on financial help before allegedly snatching part of the cash for him. Mr. Gyamfi, the National Communications Officer of the ruling NDC, took his X space last Sunday to apologize profusely for what he described as an act of indiscretion on his part. So, before I bring you in, Eric, let me speak to Edem Senano. Okay. You know, he's been at the forefront of the anti-corruption campaign for a very long time. He's a very respected and very reputable man. Let me speak to Edem. Edem, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us on Good Morning Ghana, sir.
And thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. So, was this the outcome that you expected when you heard that the presidency had taken serious, consideration of the matter? And of course, we're talking about the chief of staff, someone, Sammy Gyamfi, and there was some interaction, and all of you were waiting with bated breath what exactly was going to be the outcome. Was this what you were expecting?
Well, yes, and not because that is the the ultimate, but much more because there were limitations based on the existing law and specifically the executive policy, which is what I call the code of conduct that the president inaugurated. That code of conduct didn't have anything that captured incidents like this, to the extent that you could then move to the next step and say you were going to pick this sanction or that other sanction. And so I was clear in my mind that the best case scenario was going to be a caution at this point. It also meant that if you're using an industry approach, whenever new things come up, we say that policy is dynamic, and so you enhance the existing policy. So it's an opportunity for them to make sure they have something there that perhaps talks about bringing government into disrepute, or talks about opulent lifestyles and requiring lifestyle audits, just to cover this kind of thing. So I wasn't surprised at all at what had transpired, but I was happy that it was not trivialized nor swept under the carpet, that they did take it on board and formally came back to all of us that this is the position.
Do you agree with those who say that the decision which has been taken by the presidency will not in any way deter any other appointee from being careful when it comes to their conduct in public, and that perhaps it should have been a bit more punitive? Some say it should have been at least a week suspension, 2 week suspension, 1 month suspension, so that it would have sent in very clear terms the president's abhorrence to what I'll call unethical behavior by a public servant, quote and unquote.
No, I wouldn't agree with them. And I think that there is an erroneous understanding that sanctions are only when there's something, in your view, negative. So 1 month at home. And no. Naming and shaming is a sanction. And in many places and quarters, when we talk about behavior change and sanction incentives, or as compared with reward incentives, just the fact that there's a public embarrassment is a sanction. Is to say this is wrong, it should not be done. And I disagree when they say that it will not stop people from. Trust me, many more of the political appointees are going to be cautious about what they do in public. And I'm not quite sure that they are going to be in the habit of doling out dollars, because you see, automatically what it could potentially trigger is somebody saying that what is the source of the money, and saying I'm going to one of the current anti-corruption agencies and saying that there must be an investigation into your source of funding because your lifestyle, and for example, the Yoko law covers this already, that if you have monies that you cannot indicate a legitimate source, it means you'll be invited, you'll be questioned. And why would you want to go through that kind of harassment? So I disagree with anyone who says that this is not going to serve as notice or give any kind of serve as a deterrent. On the contrary, I think that people will take notice and be more circumspect with what they do.
So by the president saying that he acknowledges Mr. Gyamfi's remorse and has advised him to exercise greater discretion in the future, with the matter now resolved, the presidency considers the case closed. What's your understanding of this? Is it that the presidency acknowledges that something wrong has been occasioned, but then because of the remorse which has been shown by Sammy Gyamfi, so he's been forgiven, or it is that, well, it's not a big deal, except that Edem Senanu and his colleagues and his ilk are complaining, and so, let me just allow sleeping dogs to lie. What's your understanding of what the president has said? Because there's all kinds of debate even on social media as to how people are interpreting what the president has said.
This is a very, very intelligent question. Let me put it this way. I mean, I myself have been asking myself, so what really was this about? Fact is, because you couldn't align the incident with an existing law or the code of conduct, I was wondering, so what exactly are we saying? I think because you don't find that this has been codified, and therefore under normal circumstances, the thing would just have been to say, well, there's no breach of law, there's no breach of policy. But Ghanaians were upset. And not just Ghanaians, their own constituency. The NDC party faithfuls were upset. Like, we didn't do all of this, come from opposition for you to now start, doling out money. And so there were a number of issues where they realized that their own party faithfuls were extremely unhappy with this. And so you needed to speak to that. What is it? It's true. If you take Article 1.1, that when we repose authority in a government, what we are saying is that whatever you do is in the name of the people and for the welfare of the people. That's Article 1.1. And so the ordinary Ghanaian looks at what you do and says, is this in my name? And is this for my welfare? Legitimate question. And obviously the answer in this instance would be, this could not be money. Why are you giving dollars? Why dollars? And does this individual actually deserve to have dollars? And then the next question would be, and what's the source of the money? So I think what the president was doing was saying, we are acknowledging that their party faithfuls and many other Ghanaians were unhappy with this use of dollars. That said, there's a kind of opulence at a time where there's difficulty in terms of finding resources to do other things. And we're thinking that, no, this is not the kind of thing we expect senior public officers who've just been appointed to head very key institutions to be doing. Because it suggests that if that were to continue, a certain pattern of lifestyle, that is not sustainable, and that is not kind of modesty that Ghanaians would expect. So I think it was much more to the fact that Ghanaians didn't believe that it was in the best interest of the nation and of the government of the day, and less so because there's an existing law or policy that highlights this as something that is untoward.
What do you make of the timing of the decision? I've heard some people say, for instance, that it could have been earlier because that in itself will send its own kind of signal. So the matter broke on Saturday, and we were told the Chief of Staff summoned him on Monday, or so must have been Monday or Tuesday, where today is Thursday. We only found out what the decision of the president was as at yesterday. Could it have been?
But I've been told that the president was out of jurisdiction.
Yes, was out of the jurisdiction, yes. And
the Chief of Staff had to wait for him to come to talk about the steps that had been taken.
Okay.
I can well understand that. Typically, when you have the first gentleman citizen out, the itinerary may be such that you can only have high-level briefings and you can get into the details of the subject matters. So it would have been probably much more challenging for him to wrap his mind around this outside Ghana. But once he was back, they then did a full briefing. He had to take the decision. And I guess that it was necessary because he had just recently, not more than 2 weeks ago, launched the code of conduct. And so the president's own integrity was on the line as to what you do or not do under these circumstances. So I'm not too surprised. I think that the feedback was necessary. I'm glad they didn't trivialize it. I'm glad it was escalated to the highest level of the country so that then it took that attention. And I think it makes sense that the president needed to be back and be briefed and to take that decision.
So the argument that in this day and age, with technology, with technology around us, and the fact that this matter was a straightforward matter, which is whether he was going to be forgiven or the president was going to ignore it or the president was going to punish him, this could have been done within 24 hours because in matters like this, timing is also key because of what it communicates or what it signals, the optics. Because remember that there were some of your colleagues who had started growing impatient and were asking, what's happening? It's been more than 72 hours. The president, what's the president's decision, etc., etc. Yes, he's out of town, but We do know that the president will be communicating with the chief of staff. If the president needs whatever information, he still could have gotten it from the chief of staff. And then he would have just given his instruction to the chief of staff and say, look, after scrutinizing or apprising myself with the details of everything that's happened, take this decision. And you'd have said, look, I acknowledge Sammy Gyamfi's remorse. He should go and say no more, rather than waiting for 3-4 days before we finally get to know what the president's mind is.
Well, I still disagree. I mean, I do a bit of travel, and trust me, I've discovered that, out of town with an itinerary, things that have already been outlined hour by hour. When you've done all the engagements, you come back, you're worn out, trying to wrap up your mind around new things. Sometimes there are even things I've decided I'm going to work on in the evening. I'm just not able to, because somehow you underestimate what the movement, just moving from one point to another, does to your body. I think that we will be underestimating what it is that the president had to do now and what engagements he had to assume that it was as simple as, okay, just look at it, and that the space was afforded. You don't know how packed that itinerary was. I think that making it slowly in this instance to be sure he got it right, especially because this was something that was new. He had just launched the code of conduct. I think that for me, being painstaking in drawing the conclusion was important. I think also you're forgetting that one of the things that for me was key was that the chief of staff, or at least the presidency, ought to have done some due diligence on, so what is the source of this money? That discussion had to have been held, and people be able to be comfortable to say this is within the legitimate source of incomes and not beyond it, and there can be no subsequent question that will be flawed because maybe Sammy doesn't have a dollar account and has no right to be holding dollars. Some amount of due diligence needed to be done before you can feed that into the president's decision. So yes, people want it faster. That's always the case. But I've learned that when people want it fast, that's the more reason why you should be very cautious, get it right, so that when it comes out, you don't get a series of being flawed, that you didn't think of this, you didn't cover that, this is questionable. That would be a much bigger issue than if you take your time and get it right.
Okay. And it's I think your point is not as straightforward as others would want to make it seem. Now, but you have said that there's a bigger conversation that we ought to have beyond the Sammy Gyamfi, incident. Now, you are calling for a public officers bill. I believe I got that. A conduct of public officers bill.
We call it a COPO. COPO, the Code of Public Officers
yes,
Bill.
Exactly. Code of Public Officers Bill.
Public Officers Bill, yeah.
What is this meant to address? What is this, and what is it meant to address?
So, there are lots of things that exist. There's the Public Officers Declaration, and I think disqualification bill. I think it's Act 550, if my memory serves me right, that exists. There is the charge, worked with the Public Services Commission to even have a code of conduct for public officers. I think they did this in the 90s, and they've been using it for training ever since. So it is not that we don't have codes of conduct and documentation that covers some of these issues. And so in looking at best practice internationally, we then worked at having one comprehensive, so there's a one-stop shop that covered all the issues from assets declaration to lifestyle audits to gifts to bribes to extortion, in one document, which is a Code of Public Officers Bill, to make it easier for anyone, especially citizens, to be able to monitor and hold accountable public officers. Now, in the previous government, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo had said he was going to make sure it was passed. We'll have a world-class bill. All the way, even I think up to November, it was at some event he repeated this. I think it was the lawyers' event. But that was never passed. The reason why a law is much more important to Ghana, in my view, at this point, is that then you have sanctions clearly outlined for the various issues that may arise. It makes it easier when you go to court. it also then provides opportunity for all Ghanaians. And so I say then you have 35 million people who are also monitoring. So it's not a situation that somebody needs to see this and report to the president, as is the case now with the executive policy, where Mahama, our president, wants to hold his appointees accountable. That is fine. But it is not the ultimate in terms of ensuring that we get the best results as far as accountability is concerned. You need a law. That law then empowers every citizen. And by the way, it is our constitutional obligation. Recently, I've been trying to emphasize that we have irresponsible citizens in this country because we know our rights, but we don't know our obligations. 9 out of 10 Ghanaians appear to be ignorant of Article 41. 11 points that highlight and underscore the responsibility of Ghanaians. And in Article 41F, we are supposed to prevent and combat the misuse of public funds. And so there are many areas where we have responsibility we are not acting on. And so all I'm saying is that then we as citizens have the right and the obligation when we see something going wrong, based on the existing law. It was the COPO, for example, to go to court, to follow the processes, to hold our duty bearers and public officers accountable. And that's a much more strategic way of dealing with these issues moving forward.
All right. Edem, we like talking to you because you know your stuff, you know your onions, and we're so grateful that you made time for us.
And thank you for having me as well.
Thank you so very much. So Edem Senano is the co-chair for Citizens Movement Against Corruption. He's been in the anti-corruption crusade or the anti-corruption fight for a very long time. And so kudos to him and all others who are helping with this canker, which is making it very difficult for us to build our nation called Ghana. So joining us, representing the New Patriotic Party, is another good friend of ours, Ishak Ibrahim. He is a law lecturer at UPSA and also a member of the MPP's Legal Directorate. Ishak, it's always good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
And I hope you're doing well, sir.
I'm doing quite great. And good morning to my very good friend here. Then we are meeting for the first time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nevertheless, I've seen you on TV a few occasions. And good morning to the viewers as well. And sorry for the late show, but nevertheless, it's better late than never.
Happen. Yes.
But technically not late.
Yeah,
but,
that's true.
Yes.
That's true. But you hardly, that's the first time I'm seeing you wear a jacket.
Yes.
And then, because you're usually in your African, typical African wear.
Yes.
What's happening today? You have some presentation or just...
No, I think I'm just a Pan-African, even though I'm a lawyer. But I believe the African way, we need to promote it.
Okay.
That is why when I'm here, the weather is friendly for such kind of wear.
Right.
I always try my best to wear so that we can showcase Africa.
Very important.
I would love one day to go to Europe and elsewhere. And I also see them being in our African attire. Yes. So I just want to promote it.
I'm just saying because today you look totally different.
Yes.
Yes.
No, it's just a choice I've made. Nothing special.
Anyway, so Edem, the president acknowledges Mr. Gyamfi's remorse and has advised him to exercise greater discretion in future. With the matter now resolved, the presidency considers the case closed. What are your thoughts?
Well, when we saw the video in circulation, I was one of those who came to the defense of Sammy Gyamfi very early, openly on Facebook. It attracted a number of harsh criticisms and insults, but I stood firm because, moreover, in my analysis of this issue, I'm sure Ghanaians will pardon me if I sound as though I'm patronizing Mr. Samuel Gyamfi. I've worked with Sammy Gyamfi very closely. When I was Deputy National Youth Organizer, he was the National Communications Officer. In fact, when we were campaigning to be national executives, I met him on the road a number of times, and many times the two of us sat in the same car, and we toured this country working to bring President Mahama and the NDC to power. In my relationship with Mr. Gyamfi, there are two key things. Look, we are not perfect. We all have our own shortfalls and all of that. But Sammy Gyamfi is one of those people that when you build a relationship or you come close to him, there are two key things that you will identify very easily. The first one is his generosity. He's one of those that even with the little he has, he just wants everybody around him to be comfortable, to be happy. And so he's always willing to share. The second is the fact that Sammy is very, very, very concerned about his reputation and integrity. And so even at midnight, when you call me and you tell me that you have heard Sammy Gyamfi is involved in any act of corruption, I'll tell you that others can, but not Sammy Gyamfi, because he is very cautious. And there are some things that I wish I sought his permission to say on this network. Many times when he was fighting the NPP government, when he was fighting corruption, there were times people called or sent people to meet Sammy to make offers, but he always rejected. That is why for 8 years, Sammy remained a critical voice against the NPP. He wasn't afraid for his life, and he never would do anything that revolves around bribery or corruption or what have you. So I wrote on Facebook that his generosity has become his vulnerability in this matter. So I will always vouch for his credibility, his integrity, and I'm ready to put my hand in the fire for Sammy Gyamfi when it comes to those issues. He works with principles, and that is why he had that boldness to openly fight the NPP government with all their arsenals. For 8 years as a young man, he labored and did everything possible to help the NDC to win power. And so Sammy is not one of those that will engage in any act of corruption or bribery and all of that. But I equally understand the public outrage and the reaction. And I tell people that it is because the Ghanaian people have confidence in us, the NDC. That is why they have higher expectations of us when it comes to issues of morality, issues of ethics. I tell you, Moro, and let it be on record, that the Ghanaian people expect higher standards from us than the depraved MPP. Because for 8 years, they saw governance that threw ethics to the gutters. For 8 years, they saw governance that had no respect for codes of ethics or codes of conduct. They saw governance that embraced brazen corruption and abuse of power. And so, by bringing us to power, they expect higher standards from us. And that is why, even though what we saw or what happened with the Sammy Gyamfi video, there is no law that was breached. There is no code of conduct that was breached. And I'm happy my colleague is a lawyer. And the MPP, when they came out, Sammy should be sacked and all of that, they have not been able to point to which law or which code of conduct the gentleman had breached. Nothing. It's just the sentiment that let us ride on this to get a gentleman who has been a thorn in our flesh out of the political space. But I told them from day one that they will never succeed against, in any of their schemes against either Felix Ofosu-Kwakye, Sammy Gyamfi, Honorable Kujeto Ablakwa, and the many others. And so, like Mr. Senanu said, what happened is not codified. But again, the gentleman, because of the respect he has for the Ghanaian people, came to apologize that if my actions, my indiscretion, incurred some anger or led to some displeasure among you, I am sincerely sorry. I was only being at my general's best. That for me is key because he had respect for the Ghanaian people, and that is why he even apologized, even though he did not engage in any illegal activity. But he apologized. Again, President Mahama and the government has shown us that indeed they are committed to the fight against corruption, and they have respect for the good people of Ghana. That is why, beyond the apology, he was summoned by the chief of staff. Now, when the chief of staff summoned him, he listened to his side of the story and waited for the president to come take action. The president says he has been cautioned. After the caution, MPP people are in town shouting that he has been cleared, he has been pardoned. I think it's important, and I think many of the media houses even got the reportage wrong. And let me use the opportunity, your platform, to explain the difference. There is a clear difference between pardon, between clearance or clearing a person, and between and caution. These three, caution, clearance, and pardon, are not the same things. So the media houses that are reporting it, some are reporting it as he has been pardoned, some are reporting it as he has been cleared, others are, they are getting it wrong. And let me explain the difference. Boro, in many jurisdictions across this world, caution is a form of punishment, especially for minor misconducts. Every jurisdiction has caution. Even in our schools, caution. In institutions, caution. And so they will tell you that he has been cautioned. Clearance is when an investigation establishes no wrongdoing. And so there was even no need to apologize at all. Then pardon means the president may have found him guilty, but he decides to exercise his discretion, to have mercy on him and say, I have pardoned you. And so we have differences. The gentleman has been cautioned. It means that President Mahama expects that his appointees will live to a higher standard. And I say this without any disrespect to the NPP, that the NPP is so depraved when it comes to these matters that they have no moral authority to even comment or be the ones leading the charge, demanding that Sammy Gyamfi should be sacked.
Why have they lost that?
They have lost it.
Why have they lost that moral authority?
They have lost
moral
it.
Guts.
Bro, if you have the time for 8 years, I can cite examples, okay, hundreds of examples of corrupt activities and brazen corruption that the NPP took no actions against.
But they haven't said Sammy is corrupt.
No,
they haven't said Sammy is corrupt.
Okay, so on what grounds are they asking him to be sacked?
They're just saying that he's acted unethically. That's been their
recent past
argument. Yes.
In recent past, we saw a president who earned for himself the infamous title of a clearing agent, to the extent that even when his appointees were caught on video collecting bribe, he pardoned them. And in this Sammy Gyamfi's case, he was given a gift. And it's not as though his work has any relationship with the recipient of the money, where you would say maybe he was giving the money to influence anything in his favor. In his private capacity, after a funeral.
No, she said she begged, she went.
She actually begged, and we all encountered these things.
Yeah, she begged him.
But in some ways, on a lighter note, some way, somehow, this has come to help us. So yesterday, I went somewhere, and when I was entering my car, after the program, some people were coming towards the car. Now, I'm waiting for the boys, and I said, hey, please, I don't want trouble. And then we all laughed. But that's on the lighter note. But we all know that this is everywhere. You see people approaching you for gift. And it's not like Sammy Gyamfi was collecting a bribe or he was giving a bribe. He had just gifted somebody who was pressuring him for money. Even when he was counting the money, you saw the aggression with which she snatched the rest of the money from it. So you could tell clearly his private business had nothing to do with Gold Board, wasn't in the office of Gold Board, captured and and all of that. And conversation had nothing to do with Gold Board. But we saw on video appointees who were mandated to fight against Galamsey, having conversations in relation to the sector, and were seen taking money. Even those ones, they were pardoned, they were cleared. And you think that they have the moral rights to talk about this issue, this corruption cases? Like I said, the MPP is not the standard.
Right.
And that is why we are grateful to the president that beyond the apology, he took steps again to get into the issue. And I believe it is a lesson for all of us.
All right.
MPs, all of us, public officials, and all appointees of the government. Sammy did nothing wrong. But he apologized because he respects the Ghanaian people. And he must be applauded for that. All these things were missing in the last 8 years of the NPP.
Now, speaking about the difference between a pardon or clearance and then also a caution, you know, Kofi Asari, someone just sent something to him. Kofi Asari of EduWatch, he posted something on his page, in fact, on his wall yesterday, and somebody has just forwarded it to me.
The educationist?
And, yes, the educationist, EduWatch. And this is what he's written. He says, the president's action against Sammy Gyamfi. He said, the video of the presser from the presidency indicates that Sammy Gyamfi has been cautioned in line with the code of conduct. This is welcome. Then he continues to say, a caution is a form of disciplinary action in many codes of conduct, usually for minor misconduct. Therefore, the president's caution to Sammy Gyamfi means disciplinary action has been taken by the president. This is different from a pardon or a clearance. A pardon means the president established wrongdoing but decided to forego the sanctions. Clearance means the president found no wrongdoing at all. Media houses announcing clearance and pardon may seek guidance. Agrada can return the cash to my dollar momo. Lessons should be learned by all. To those who insulted Meriada, etc., for calling for action, your eyes die. The president knows better and has duly acted. To those who said we hate MVSG, including the Medina MP who broke my heart, no, if you continue to use the party emotions to guide your thinking in government, you will join us in opposition soon. This is finished. That's from Kofi Asari. Yes.
So a country like UK, in a jurisdiction like the UK, they use caution to for people who have admitted guilt for minor crime. Caution. So it's a form of punishment. And sometimes when you have accumulated...
So was he cautioned or he was pardoned?
He was cautioned. He was cautioned.
So he has done something wrong.
No, and I'm saying that, the wrong...
You just said
I'm saying that.
Minor crime.
Yeah, and I'm
so
telling you that.
Happened.
No, so you see, lawyer.
No,
it is important for you to pay attention. My point is that the gentleman did not do anything illegal.
So why
and that must be established. Caution because, like I said, the president expects, and you are a lawyer, you know that it is not everything that is maybe unethical or that is wrong, that is illegal. For example, as we are on this show, I can decide to walk out of the show before the program ends. It is not illegal to do so, but it may be wrong. So my party can caution me that why did you embarrass us? Why did you leave the program before the closing time? So when the party cautions me, it doesn't mean I have done anything illegal. And it's important. So there are laws. Sammy did not breach any law. Sammy did not breach any code of conduct for public officials.
Yes.
But the way and manner in which the thing happened, the president thought that, well, this is not good for us. But that doesn't mean that he has established any illegality or any act of corruption.
Yes.
So he was cautioned that be careful in your dealings. Again, let me cite another example before you come in. As a member of parliament, I can walk to a drinking bar, decide to drink, get drunk in the bar. It is not illegal, is it?
Right.
Is it illegal? But it is not an attitude that is good for me as a public official. So when I do that and I am cautioned, it doesn't mean that I have engaged in any illegality. But it's just a general advice or a caution that be circumspect in your dealings moving forward.
Okay.
And so don't make it look as though because he was cautioned, he had engaged in any act of illegality. That I want us to establish clearly.
Okay.
So you are a lawyer, tell us, which law did Sammy Gyamfi breach? Which code of conduct did he breach? Nothing. But because we respect the Ghanaian people, And because the Ghanaian people expect higher standards from us, and they have lost confidence in your depraved MPP when it comes to these issues, the Ghanaian people have been respected. And that is why the president cautioned him and urged all appointees to be circumspect in their dealings.
So let's watch, and if the video is ready, please, can we watch the video of Felix's, what do you call it, Felix's presser on this Sammy Gyamfi matter? We want to understand exactly how the presidency feels about what Sammy Gyamfi has done. In the wake of the Sammy Gyamfi matter.
Yes.
One of the issues that came up had to do with, this political culture that we have nurtured over a period of time where MPs, ministers are constantly being harassed by either constituents or friends or media or imams and pastors and so on and so forth. Then the sort of undue pressure, that it brings on those of you who have decided to serve your communities, and whether indeed it is sustainable. For instance, I'm told some of you MPs, when you're going to your constituencies, you have to, as a matter of, it's almost like whether you, as a matter of necessity, you must mobilize some resources before you go back to your constituencies. How daunting is that type of task? And I'm asking this question because you know where we're headed.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
So how daunting is that task? And typically, what are the things that your constituents would want you to do for them? Is it bread and butter? Is it marriage issues? What is it?
Well, Boro, I think that we need to have a national dialogue on this issue.
Yeah.
The role of MPs, role of MMDCs, and our ability to meet the many financial requests that comes. I look at it from two ways.
Okay.
The positive note is that I believe God has elevated us or given us the opportunity to serve him by serving mankind. And so when people call you that I am in the hospital and I need 300 cedis to be able to buy drugs, you see it as an opportunity to directly save lives or impact on the life of the person asking. When people come to you for school fees, but for your support, they may have dropped out of school. When you do that, all you get, I think that is a blessing because it's an opportunity to invest in people, and forever the people will know that this leader invested in my education and all of that. That's why when I had the opportunity as MP, the first thing I did was to launch a scholarship scheme, and so far we have spent in excess of 1.5 million Ghana cedis giving out scholarships to more than 400 tertiary students. The last time I mentioned the figure, somebody thought maybe I was exaggerating or embellishing it. And I said, look, here is the data. The number of banks that we made payments, so I can pull all the data for you to even display on your screen. The ones that we paid at Fidelity, ones we paid at GCB, and all the other banks. So all the students and their contact details, everything, student numbers are there. So on that note, I think that, yes, the people need help. And also because of how our social structure is, somebody is in desperate need for support. Yesterday, there was a case I was dealing with at the Ridge Hospital where a constituent of mine in a very critical situation. When you are called for such life-saving activities, sometimes, yes, it may come with so much pressure, but you just have to do it because if God has blessed you, you have that opportunity, and the blessing is to also bless other people. But the negative is that some people exploit this. Some people take advantage of it. So sometimes you go to your constituency, you wake up in the morning and somebody is in your house asking for 30,000 Ghana cedis. You ask for what? Says, I want to buy a car. And so you ask yourself that, okay, if every MP or if you even want to buy a car or spend 30,000 on a constituent, how much is your salary? Yeah. One, what are you entitled to? Where are you going to get the money from? So for some of us, the ones we can do and we are capable of doing, we do it. But the ones that are quite extreme, we tell the people the truth that this is beyond me. Some people come. Yesterday, somebody called me to buy him a motorbike. Told him that, no, I'm unable to because I don't have the resources to do that. If it's a critical situation, like recently, a constituent of mine had a health crisis. They needed about 300,000 Ghana cedis. They did support personally, but I called on a friend, and he came and supported with 150,000. And so sometimes, if it's a critical situation and you know that really the person needs the support, we go all out to go and help the person. But when you come to me and you tell me, for example, that you've gone to borrow money from a credit union for your business and you have defaulted and you need, you want the MP to come and pay 20,000, 25,000, 10,000, all of that, those ones, some of us think that then people just want to exploit your generosity, and people want to take advantage of the fact that you are kind. So we handle it in our best interest. But I think that we need to have a national conversation on this and properly educate people to understand that even what MPs are entitled to. Sometimes I think, and when I entered Parliament, I told one of my seniors that maybe it's about time benefits that MPs are entitled to, we publish it and make it public. Because some people are of the view that in Parliament you have endless access to all the resources in the world. But I tell you that a lot of MPs are struggling. You see, so sometimes to run programs, we have to rely on the benevolence of other people. You have to go pitch your ideas to people and businesses that are willing to. So, for example, my scholarship scheme, at the launch, I mentioned the names of the individuals and companies that came on board to support me because I want to be very transparent.
Right.
Because if I tell you I spent 1.5 million Ghana cedis for scholarship, you ask me, where did he get the money from?
Absolutely.
Where am I going to get 1.5 million? In fact, the common fund, MP's common fund for the whole year will not be up to that amount. MP's common fund for 2 or 3 years, maybe even the entire 4 years, may not be up to that amount. So I needed to fall on friends, your network, write letters, appeal to companies and say, look, use your corporate social responsibility to invest in this scholarship scheme, and then my personal contributions as well. So we need to have a conversation on how to manage some of this because many MPs are struggling. When you go to an MP's home in the morning, typically, you may see no less than 100 or 200 people waiting at the gate. And out of these 100, say 100, 95% are there with a request. But like I said, for some people, they genuinely need the help. Some also just take advantage of the fact that, oh, he's doing it for others. And so even when they don't have the need, they come with all sorts of requests. But I see this as a mission, and I always pray that God should empower me to be able to help those who really need it, those who really need it. And so sometimes you may hear, oh, we went to the MP asking for 2,000 for something we didn't get. But right after we had somebody went for money to pay the fees or for a health crisis, and maybe the MP has given them 5,000 or more. We have to prioritize what is really important, and we should be able to discern
what is a need and
what is a need and what's the person. I mean, like I said, some people just think that they also have to have a bite of it because they assume it is a national cake, but it is not. I can give you another practical example. Moro, since I was sworn in as MP on the 7th of January 2025, we are yet to receive any common fund or any allocation for the constituency. But we are working in the constituencies. How are we doing that? We've not received any fund, any allocation that this is for development in your constituency. But we are renovating schools. We are embarking on various projects. We are drilling boreholes. Just this week, I went to donate some computers. We have organized health screenings. We sent eye specialists to go treat people. More than 2,000 people benefited? How are we doing all of that? And there's no fund from central government for all of these things. And so MPs are really struggling. They are doing their best, but we need to have a conversation on how we place some burdens on MPs. Every church embarking on the project believes that the MP must make contributions. And I have more than 300 communities in my constituency. So imagine every week, aside the funerals and the demands from the churches and other groups, other organizations, apprentices and all of that, how are you expecting the MP to raise these things?
Yeah.
And so these are important issues for us to be dealing with. But for me, if you have the opportunity to help, especially the critical ones, school fees, health crisis, I don't joke with those two. School fees, health crisis, school fees, if I'm able to verify that you are my constituent, you are doing well in school, but you are facing financial challenges. But even if I don't have the money, I can call you and say, Moro, Charlie, I need some 2K, 3K for this constituent of mine. You understand? Yeah. So those particular ones, I'm very particular about it. But the very extra ones, MP, I want to travel.
I want to marry a third wife.
Yeah, I want to marry a third wife. Such requests come.
Oh, Charlie.
MP, I want to travel abroad. I've gotten my visa, but I want you to buy the flight ticket for me, and it's 18,000. Is that? Those other ones may not receive the necessary attention from some of us. But health crisis, education,
those ones are
top priority, very critical for.
How do you, for instance, how are you able to tell, for instance, somebody comes to you and says they need money to go and pay school fees, or they want to pay medical bills, and things that you deem as critical? How do you ensure that the resources that you're making available to the person actually goes to attend or address the very things that they came to you for, and that you're not being scammed, for want of a better word?
A number of us have fallen victims to such scams in the past. I have fallen victims to it. So the structure I have put in place, when you call me that you have a health crisis in my constituency, I ask you which facility are you admitted, or which doctor prescribed the drugs you claim you want to go and buy. And I have my guys on the ground. I have my research assistant and my AA, and I'll send a contact that speak to them. They will quickly verify.
Okay.
They will verify, and when we verify that, what you're saying is the truth, we will support. Same with fees.
Okay.
So for the scholarship, we decided not to hand over physical cash to any of the beneficiaries.
Okay.
So we asked them to give us the account details of the schools. And so we wrote to the bank and said, have this amount of money, and this list of students can be paid through this medium, and then they effected the payment. And so the banks helped us, and they sent the receipts, and we only forwarded the receipts to the students. So we didn't pay, or we didn't give physical cash to anyone. And so that is...
Have you ever had an experience where someone came to you and said they needed help on account of either a health condition or they want to pay school fees, and then you said, okay, let me have the details of the account, I'll pay, and the person says, okay?
Many times.
Many times?
Yes, sometimes somebody... I recall not too long ago, a gentleman came to me and said he had applied for the scholarship, he wasn't selected, but they are about to sack him from school and what. So I asked which school. Then he mentioned that University of Education, Winnipeg. I said, okay, I know you're doing quite well. Give me your details, your student number, and your full name, and I will call the school to verify how much you owe, and payments be made. Okay. And the person said, I'm coming, and never came back. Yeah. And so we've had such situations. And people actually call. Somebody can call you from even a different community and tell you that, oh, I'm calling from Joje, knowing that Joje is in your constituency, and say, please, I have this need, A, B, C, and D. So what I have done is that, okay, I have branch chairmen or executives in all those communities. I said, okay, go and tell your branch chairman to call me. Initially, people didn't like that arrangement, but it has saved us a lot. So if indeed you are in that community and you have that need, if I refer you to any of my executives and say, talk to your assembly member and ask your assembly member to call me on your behalf, they will be able to know that indeed you are needy, or indeed you are in the community and you are confronted with such a challenge. Initially, people didn't like the arrangement, but we've come to realize that it has saved us, a lot from scammers. People do take advantage of MPs in this thing. Then another thing that we are battling with currently is that sometimes people are defrauding a lot of people in our name, using our names. So on Facebook, I have over 60 accounts created in my name.
Okay.
So when you search Edem Abgana now, more than 60 fake accounts. And they are defrauding people that send money to this number and we will get you immigration slots, we will get you police or fire service and what have you. And a lot of people, bro, are falling for these scams. We keep warning people that no MP, whether NDC or MPP, will take a password from you to help you for employment. So when people are chatting you, busily chatting you on social media, that send money to this account, A, B, C, and D, and the MP will help you, know that it is a scam. Whether NDC or MPP. No NDC MP, no MPP MP, no independent MP will take money from you to help you or support you to get a job. So people should stop falling for.
Have you ever had any of your constituents or any of your friends that you extend a helping hand to, or any person, could be an imam, could be a chief, could be a pastor, could be a media person, whoever the person is that calls you from time to time, say they need your help. Has any of those people bothered to ask you, how are you able to find the money to take care of all these people who call you to say they need one form of help or the other? Has any of them ever been bothered?
I mean, apart from people who are close to you, who see the enormity of the tax and the number of requests that comes in regularly. I had a discussion with somebody recently.
On those to spend their resources on those good causes. And so when they find you credible, you have integrity
and transparent.
Yes. So they are prepared to spend their resources on you.
Yes.
So that you then would in turn spend it on persons who need it.
Exactly.
And that's how you come in. But the other thing too is this. Some more. Do you sometimes fear as politicians that your ability to stay in power, is intrinsically linked to your ability to give people physical handouts? Because sometimes I get the impression that you can build the roads, you can build the hospitals, you can build a mosque, you can do the infrastructure work, you can roll out social intervention policies. But you politicians have this morbid fear that if people approach you for some kind of financial help and you don't give them, your ability to sustain your hold on the power that you're enjoying, it then becomes endangered. Is that a genuine fear that sometimes you politicians have?
Personally, I don't have such fears. But I know many of my colleagues who entertain such fears out of experience. And on this note, I want to commend use the opportunity to thank the Minister for Interior, the Honorable Muntaka Mubarak. He gave us an advice during our orientation and on how to manage these things. And I can say it really has guided me in doing these things. He told us that, look, those who come asking, those who come giving you pressure for personal needs or handouts only constitute a portion or a small population of your constituents. So at the end of your 4 years, you may have supported the same people over and over again, but if the community does not see their roads, if they don't see the schools and all of these other things, the trust and the confidence in you drops. Because just as you have people who may be influenced by what you give them on these handouts, there are also many people in our constituencies whose only concern is development. So you must learn how to balance the two. So while you are doing this personal, meeting these personal demands, it is also important for you to focus on the work, which is to be an agent of development.
Okay.
That issue of fear, it plays out most especially in internal primaries.
Okay.
Sometimes somebody is going to be campaigning against you, saying everything to tarnish your image.
All right.
But what people don't know may be that the person came to ask or make a personal demand for something that, for want of a better word, let me say, is even unreasonable.
Right.
But because you couldn't meet that need, the person will not tell the constituents that I am against Moro because I went to ask him for 10,000 cedis to take a third wife.
Yeah.
But the MP is not kind, he is this, he is that, and all these other things. So you just have to learn how to manage the two. And I'm happy that when I came in, many seniors have been of help to me, and they are guiding us to learn how to balance the two. So that at the end of the day, after your 4 years, you can account not only for the personal supports or investment that you have made into the people directly, but you can equally account for developmental projects in the constituency, and that's what we are trying to do.
Okay. All right, so those of you have been asking me why there's no MPP rep. We just have a little disagreement with the MPP on an issue, but we'll resolve it quickly as possible. I mean, we're partners in this, we're friends, we're very good friends, but you know, once in a while, we can't agree on one or two things, a couple of things, but it's not a big deal. We'll resolve it as quickly as we can, and they would rejoin the show. And here I want to say a very good morning to Richard Ahiagba and the rest of your team for doing a good job. And like I said, it's not a big deal at all, but we'll resolve it as soon as we can, and things will be back to normalcy. Now, let's, Edem, let's look at this issue which has been raging for some time now. I know your relationship with Sammy Gyamfi. The two of you are very good friends. And I've also seen some of your write-ups that you have authored since his matter broke. And you mounted a very, very strong defense when the video, the Agrada Dollar video went viral. Now, there's a development, as you do know.
Yes.
Because Ghanaians were eagerly awaiting what the decision of the presidency or the president was going to be. And I saw some CSOs, asking what's happening, hasn't any decision been made, etc., etc. So a decision has been made. And the various newspapers have carried the outcome of that decision. So if you look at Daily Graphic today, Presidency resolves Sammy Gyamfi's faux pas. The story is on page 29 of today's newspaper.
I want you to read the headline again.
Yes, President resolves Sammy Gyamfi's faux pas. Okay. That's how they've couched it. And the story is on page 9. Now, Kesta Abraham Crunchy. But before I do that, before I read the story, I need to remind you of my favorite Politan.
Ewe abusiafo enti we nsema Edem Abgana enso editu edwa. And one thing I've realized about you, Rajon Mahama, na mamu anise. Yaka ahobrase pa enkofu eyebi. Na Ghana hasai betimi nye leadership bi on bebro mu ho asisi. Ena na Akufo-Addo ne nkofo adane Jack Chan eni Rambo ewe yeso a yenka ekra no mu pe ano so aboro. Asensu Buachi enya platform a okeka nsem hunu na binum nya platform a Kwadwo Pon Kromanom eno mu ina wo Okuboy Leze Kuku constituency Okuboy akwa ni constituency ko no mamaza Leze Kuku ewo aisa odi mamemfa odonto. You see enkophobia di enim penyon Ghana for we semantonso ma na mahu di emu onyino semantonso mu a mahu di emu ede a amamu ya na nyame na odi amaye. Shout out to Castro yakopon emfa ne kransi baby owo bia se wawu so nyamu yo. Asi semantonso we mahu Udo ya nene nyame ne betre. Udo beko campaign ama besi na hu se udo ya nene nyame ne betre. Enti Yeradwo Mahama. Yemeni no kredi mu bo adwuma. And Ghana for we are proud of you. Yeni age papa. Se nkofo bi ka se dollar no eye hwan yo. Se ye China fo, se ye US o, se ye Angola fo, se ye Switzerland fo, se ye Amsterdam o, se ye Burkina Faso, se ye Swahili fo. Ye di ni enima ne se mo na mudi so dollar na akofo. Nti any credit bia no ye de be mamo. Nti MPP4 party say omo anya so opportunity ni bi India tenure of office amma dollar na ntimi amafo mana. Ye kana food soldiers binunti comment section no mo didi atem. You see ye kana kra kire mo. Say MPP4 mbetoto mo ne mo yanke bebo am. On say mo party no munhu tiri munhu animu munhu chiri munhu amfimfini munhu to ena modi nam kuruma. Ena modi yeden modi nam kuruma. Thank you to keke kra no ntimi nwie ma suspend it. Eno no eni na mua na na si aba ntimi nye omojai me na meka che opa yen me say obi pa yen belti obi pa yeden yen belti wo so ti MPP for betimi akọ thank you to no bi wa. Tell you ntimi Kennedy Japan jai thank you to no asiagu na yewura Kennedy nche thank you to nkofo bo na wo yi Kennedy efiri mana say Kennedy no aredra ye papa. How can you tell me say that thank you to will withstand? No, it means jinadra. People mu yam ho. Me say mu yam ho bi. When say bo mi it mean we need election e ukruma. When say bo mi nkofo mpe no, even one nkofo mpe how come Ghana for? When say bo mi we ni mu nyedru. When say bo mi can never and ever take power for MPP. Adenti a momfa mo resources mu bibia nkota Kennedy Japan achi. Kennedy Japan numa we no ukruma. Ide bia meka o Kennedy die he woton kodu no we nim de ka so ye ndi so ye MPP o na waboa Ghana se o MPP aban na ebo no man ni iska o nya iska na wonfa ni nanum. How many of MPP for na NDC for na yakopon abo mo nya omonya sika wo aban mu a omode bi enwuma da de bi omotam na obi di mo tu bi bo hye woto ayi akoy na kan na meka yo nya ni di ni sen abo apapo edesto wusu bempa asem bibifo ni sika mo to de bom mato Sammy Gyamfi asim ba ya na kokan ye tia no na appointee bi so say okoye den or the 20,000 ekodi den amutu mu ye free ye tia no mana ma misisi abada pa currency bia hu bi won pass enu de mu ye free won bibifo nja hypocrisy na mbo amo bibifo mu ye free awrade wo muzi mega akokasa we obi adwase mega ekikansem na Sammy Gyamfi de koye papa ebia papa na oye no bebia mususu se koye ne nantwa yi but after all agrada ye nipa masa mu menja sade no agrada oye nipa sometimes bibi won ma na ye meya se USA ye wo mi obi enka wiase we bu ye dem be wuti de ntia obi yemfonso no nu ho anfa nche no edinti obi yemfonso no nu ho anfa nche no agrada pa chewo agrada say agrada I can tell you say na sorry makano say they are having some love be at the NDC through Sammy Gyamfi nti say agrada obanwini enkofo de aba party ni mo and political party are being built with people numbers and the MPP for course wa mu yi nkofo free party ni mo say party nesa you see the percentage of mo recording no last election that was surprising and I mean embarrassing to the party. Enti ye ka nokre e de akire mu ye ka nokre e de akire mu enima bi wo hono ma aya na enkoyi enima bi wo hono ma enkoyi ye ka nokre de akire mu to be sincere to yourself enima bi wo hono ma MPP fu aya memini mo anka ye jai propaganda wo ye Sammy Gyamfi be chase ka mo ye press conference be to ho charge sraj ho charge CID ho charge akwa we adubu ahin sika wadi no ye kana asema nka daba na nka watra Ghana nka wadamu wonsa wom ka prison straight nka nye yoku office kwa na omodi ne kwahye anye yoku office ena na omo ye de omodi ne kwahye adubu ahin sika wadi ubisa na wasi ye di bima we which means ampa sika wadi bima MPs bi wadi bima yisi na we ye discount as the director of National Security Bureau also see me divya koma we na ye discount mo se fa koma obi which means sika no embezzle no he has squandered the money and he need to be what jailed meaning the entire before NDC for a train meaning the omo train I don't know what they are waiting for meaning the omo train it's a double ahini must be jailed eti mama kai Sammy Gyamfi yenyi ne die yenyi se Sammy Gyamfi bon be na why the bona why ni se agrada edi amina agrada edi di mahama atem mahama na kra waka so no ono be president an okai so no ono wo didi na temu wo ni di na temu you have every right to speak in his governance. You have every right to speak in his governance. What to me bias or the Obekasa na Bemono, no, or yet say Jack Toronto, or ya know a cofan and call for no man before how much, see the way bungo ideas, no much chilweni. I didn't tell my catcher say, hey, Okasa be home. Oh no, yes, I not you. And yes, I not here. And you know, this is, Sammy Gyamfi and pay but run in the other way round. We save party, we added some numbers to party. You see, Sammy Gyamfi we young. Mr. Obetime president. He is a presidential material. Sammy Gyamfi, the humbleness. Oh God, and this is for Nyamishra Moyer Momo Bojma. How was Sammy Gyamfi? The one who see Kasa or TV so criticizing for once I say see or see Mr. Mo. Say Musima say na say nya my Jimmy Fos Watum, my red draw, but I am yassi carry the mint me kwaji because in chardi means and kwaji about Sakran and even it is not allowed. And in Yamini no corridor MPP4 moment the point in Sammy Gyamfi's case. Some will be charges Shrajo, some will be charges a CID, some will be charges whoever Supreme Court or when you as a ham. You are wasting time. When they be an file petition, you file application. Mammy Tokuno dinner, because he said Tokuno and NDC forward numbers in Parliament. So I am on your motor. And Tiabano in Parliament case, among the law, 88 the coin. 1/3 of Mundu and this for conquer 1/3 or 2/3 or more. 2/3 majority they have it. 2/3 majority and it is for the have it. And they can prosecute the match and the MP for MPs in Parliament. But Mr. Mo Anyana America Union to pass him. Match Mogum. I withdraw so much no when the end so obedience should be a democracy be it mekanage. Enti mi bisa se kinufurata no almost date ben e no bebe kurum ha kinufurata o me she da ye life na the way me see afa no wo betu me se me be pie life no so ochena nya me boa na se me fire kinufurata obi am kasa obi andi matem because Ghana wo ya di bibia ma man we jijajija kinufurata edi nkofo atu esenmu kinufurata bonds pensioners sika omoji ye radio mahama bai no betua yo wo akotena US wo sa ho yade wo mreko a odi obi enkwa atu esenmu ono ni sika wa save se nkanyame ya adu na so wie okọ pension a oja betwitwa na ho no waji se sika no ena de ye ni abe kinufurata akache nso mre ha me ono ka no share the date May 13 for May 11 for May 5th. I stand to be corrected. Kinufurata inyanti hwe. So wabanso ena attorney general mu address e jama nyaade. Yibra Dominican ye eyine se waba ena mu address state na mu nyaade. Mu nyaade because it should be public knowledge. Said the mu gina honum e declare fugitive fugitive no. Mu make sure so banso mu be ye de mu be magana fo nyina hunu. Asa bodi ni kwese tukrum ba bi no ne Canada la sile la coolai no san ko sha America bi adan ya masa nke ntwe mamo atoni je ba nke ntwe mamo ene nka fi mudi na be court because ye be yemu bi yebra Dominica yi na yenimu 2020 odi omudi election petition ko ya na mo bombe gina on kasa mo bo na ni na ye kan bi mamo no ye na mo nyetumi na mo ye mo ze ma ye kesi aye mfam chemu asa be mo hu say yes to me no belongs to God and humanity. Yankopon shira fa comment to like share na fufu nya bi hwe makraw bye bye.